When you're thinking about stepping up to a professional-grade dye sublimation printer, the first question that usually pops up is, will this really pay for itself? Or will I end up with a big, pricey machine that sits idle? That hesitation makes sense. Dye sublimation isn't a hobby you pick up on a whim, and the Epson SureColor F9470H is positioned as a workhorse for studios, event photographers, and anyone who needs consistent, high-volume output. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes I'll walk through what the printer does in a real-world environment, where its strengths actually show up, and the trade-offs that can make it a miss for the wrong buyer. First, let's talk about the kind of workflow the F9470H is built for. This is not a desktop photo printer you keep on a coffee table. It's a 64-inch roll-fed machine that expects you to feed specialty sublimation paper and keep a steady supply of Epson's Dye-Sublimation inks on hand. If you run a photo gift business, a sports team merchandise operation, or a boutique that prints custom mugs and apparel, the ability to produce vibrant, edge-to-edge transfers in a single pass is a huge time saver. The printer's large media width means you can print multiple small items side by side on a single sheet, cutting down on paper waste and post-printing trimming. For a studio that prints on fabric, the consistent color density you get from Epson's proprietary ink formula is one of the main reasons people choose a sublimation platform over a standard pigment ink printer. Now, the real question is, how does that promise translate when you actually set the machine up? The first thing most users notice is the footprint. The F9470H sits on a sturdy base, but you'll need a dedicated space that can accommodate a 64-inch roll, plus a separate cabinet for the ink cartridges, and a workstation for the RIP software. The installation guide walks you through loading the roll, priming the print head, and calibrating the color profile. It's not a plug-and-play experience, but if you've ever wrestled with a large format printer before, the steps feel familiar. The biggest hidden trade-off is the ink consumption. Dye-Sublimation ink is more expensive per milliliter than standard ink, and because the printer runs at high speed, you'll go through cartridges quickly if you're printing large batches. That means you have to budget for ink as an ongoing cost, not just the upfront price of the hardware. What about daily usability? Once you've got the roll loaded and the inks topped up, the printer's workflow is surprisingly smooth. You send a file from your design software, the RIP processes it, and the printer starts spitting out fully sublimated sheets with minimal lag. The print head moves quietly, and the color fidelity remains consistent batch after batch, which is a relief for anyone who's ever dealt with color drift on a traditional pigment printer. The built-in cutter can be programmed to cut at preset intervals, which is handy if you're producing a series of identical 810 prints for a corporate event. On the downside, the printer does not have a built-in media sensor that automatically detects roll width or paper type, so you have to manually input those settings each time you switch media. For a small shop that only prints one size of product, that's a minor inconvenience. For a multi-product operation, it adds a step you'll need to factor into your turnaround time. Let's look at practical strengths. The first is color vibrancy. Dye-Sublimation inks embed the dye into the polymer coating of the paper, which means the colors don't just sit on the surface, they become part of the material. The result is a matte finish that resists scratching and doesn't fade under UV exposure, making it ideal for apparel that will be washed repeatedly. The second strength is speed. The F9470H can print a full-width 64-inch sheet in under a minute, which translates to roughly 30 to 40 standard size transfers per hour depending on your layout. That throughput is where the value proposition shines. You're not paying for a printer that takes forever to produce a batch. You're paying for a machine that lets you meet tight deadlines without sacrificing quality. Finally, the reliability of Epson's print head technology means you're less likely to see nozzle clogs even after weeks of idle time, as long as you run a purge cycle periodically. On the flip side, there are practical weaknesses you need to weigh. The biggest is cost of ownership. Aside from the ink, you'll need to purchase sublimation paper, and, for most apparel applications, a heat press. Those accessories aren't part of the printer's price tag, but they are essential to get usable products out the door. The second weakness is the learning curve. If you're new to dye sublimation, you'll have to spend time mastering color profiles, paper handling, and the heat press timing for each substrate. That learning period can feel steep, especially if you're transitioning from a regular inkjet workflow where you simply print and frame. Finally, the machine size and weight make it a poor fit for a